The Manpower audit report came out in 2017. Did you get a chance to peruse that very thick document during your tenure?
Yes, I did. And when I spoke to experts who transform police services around the world, they laughed at it. They said that is not how it is done. British experts came on behalf of the British High Commission from the United Kingdom. And when they looked at it, they said it was laughable. Because when it is you're trying to transform a police service, what Professor Dursaran and others did is just get dozens and dozens of persons to come and give 10-page documents of their view of what should be done to transform a police service. So what it became more of is having that manpower audit. It was more of a fire hazard with the amount of paper there. And they said that is not how you try to transform a police service. It's something just about 30, 40 pages. And you have quick wins, you have the medium and the long terms. You explain certain things that should be done, new units, new technology, new systems, new approach to deal with measuring performance, ensuring accountability. And that is how it is done. So what Professor Dusra and those others did is just compile lots of different views from everyone, making it virtually impossible to operationalize and to actually transform the police service. We have gone through this before. We had the Mostrovsky, we had the Clayton report. So all of these things with thousands and thousands of pages serves very little purpose. What is required is having the will to and the policies to drive to transform the police service. And that was the problem. As the Commissioner of Police, I did form a committee to look into it. It was headed by, at that time, ACP Dookie. After I left, obviously, that went out the window. But to try to utilize that as the avenue and the excuse for the police service not operating to maximum efficiency, I think that is a slap in the face to the police service and the police officers. Because 2 years ago, you saw the transformation. There was no need for that manpower audit. There's this concern that they speak about now, stating that there's a shortage of police officers in the Trinidad and Tobago police service. Total nonsense. When you look at New York City, for example, 25,000 odd police officers, 25, 30,000 to deal with 7 million citizens. The Trinidad and Tobago police service, we are on par with having a very high rate of police officers in relation to population density and the size of the country in relation to other cities and countries around the world. So that is not the situation, because 2.5 years ago for Carnival, for example, every single street corner, we had 2 police officers. The place was totally locked down and it made it the safest carnival ever. 2 years ago on Arapita Avenue and everywhere else, every 3 minutes you'll be seeing a police vehicle, a lot of visibility, because you put systems in place to make sure they stay in their area of responsibility, making sure they're accountable, having a rapid response. And so there's no need for us to try to utilize that manpower audit as an excuse to say, well, we don't have enough police officers. We have more than enough, and it was shown just 2.5 years ago.
So is there anything coming out of that report that you agree with? Does the police service need to be reformed? Does the selection process for the police service for a police commissioner need work? Does the service commission need reform? Does the TTPS need reform? And does the country need a police inspectorate?
Yeah, definitely. The inspectorate, let me tell you, what happens right now, we have a police service commission that selects a commissioner of police and measures the performance of the commissioner of police. It is like somebody who has never played football becomes the coach for Manchester United. Well, probably the way that coach is operating now, that's probably the case. But you can't put civilians with no qualification, training, knowledge, or experience in law enforcement to measure the performance of a commissioner of police or to even select her. These individuals comprise somebody who's a speaking consultant, an accountant, and that is how they selected Ulla Christopher. Now, before, the law had that you had to go and get an international firm with qualification and experience in selecting a commissioner of police. That is why Ulla Christopher got 52%. That's why she got 24 out of 50 in the interview, 3 out of 15 in the mock media conference, 3 out of 15 in Roll Fit, or 4 out of 15, because experts measured her performance. That law was changed so that what it changed to is that a politician would handpick a president who will then handpick persons in the Police Service Commission. So these individuals with no qualification in law enforcement are now the persons who will select Ulla Christopher. So from her coming, getting 52% and coming 12th, she shoots up to first because of the present system. You can't have that. And then they now measure her performance. On what ground do you have the capability to measure the performance? You know nothing about law enforcement. So definitely by having that type of individual or group with qualification, training, and experience in law enforcement, they can now properly measure the performance of the police commissioner and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So that is one thing for sure. As it pertains to the transformation of the police service, you did not need thousands and thousands of pages in a Ducera report with just speaking to people and having them give their views. As I said, UK experts came here from the British High Commission and they thought it was totally comical that that is used as a manpower audit. They said it could just take about 10, 15 pages to show exactly what is done. And that is what I did. The police service was transformed. So you did not need a manpower audit to transform the police service. Public trust and confidence in the police service was 14% in August 2018. It is not by accident. It moved to 59% by August 2021. It was transformed. Public relations, putting trust and confidence in the police service by the public, morale being lifted, people, officers being motivated. The transformation was there. The transformation was there that everywhere you turn, you will see a police officer. As soon as you make a 999 call, you will have a police response immediately. So the transformation can be done without having a manpower audit with documents that can be a fire hazard to an office. It can be done. But if it is you shut down and dismantle all the things that cause the majority of the country to say, yes, we are now confident in the police service. You shut it down and it moved from 59% to 8%. And who caused all of this? One man alone, Keith Christopher Rowley, because of his bitterness for Gary Griffith. Is that fair to citizens of this country? But a manpower audit is not what was required to transform it. What was required is somebody with the type of leadership and ability as a prime minister to let people do their job, not politicize the police service, and having persons in charge of the police service having the drive to build a side into a team and turning that team into making sure that all police officers can feel confident, comfortable to know that they could perform. Thankfully, the Prime Minister had to be honest to state that the police service performed admirably during the period of COVID. Whereas all over the world, we had reports of police officers abusing their authority, going absent. We didn't get one. We had police officers performing above and beyond, not one going absent, not one being reported for abuse of authority, and 30 of them dying because of it. There was not even a vote of thanks by this government. Instead, what they did, 4 individuals in the Ministry of Health come every single week, tell people, put mask on your face, social distance, and stay at home. And you get a national award for that. But instead, we had police officers putting their lives on the line, and you refuse to even tell them thank you. Those are the things that can demotivate police officers. So when I said, we moved to 59% public trust and confidence in the police service. So it was transformed. We were in the right direction. What changed it? One man alone because of his bitterness and hatred for Gary Griffith.
So you're saying that you were able to transform the TTPS, and because of the Prime Minister's issues with you, he sort of unraveled that progress. In your estimation, can Erla do the job given to her to continue that transformation or restart that transformation, considering the fact that, let's just say, some of the recommendations could be adopted from the report, and she was a member of that committee? Can she do the job?
Yeah, well, firstly, I did not transform the police service. We transformed the police service. I selected a team with about 25 persons, the best in the business when it came to law, when it came to technology, when it came to operational systems. I formed a proper team, and that is how the police service was transformed, from being people having no trust and confidence in them to them actually people feeling comfortable to see police officers on the streets, on the ground. That is what caused the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. And again, the foolish comment made by Keith Rowley to state that that massive reduction was because of COVID. If you recall, Carnival 2020, there was no COVID. The transformation had taken place. And that is why the country, there was not even a pickpocket incident. The place was locked down before COVID. And then after I left, during COVID, still with the same public health regulations, the same COVID, in October and November 2021, it was the highest number, second and third highest number of murders in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. That was during the same period. So when he talks this nonsense to say there was a reduction, how come in October and November after I left, the murder rate was so high? And then when you look at Jamaica and Guyana, for example, there was a massive reduction in crime after COVID, because similar to cities in New York, Boston, LA, Detroit, Chicago, every one of those cities, there was a massive spike in crime during COVID, because when people have to stay indoors, it may cause domestic violence. It caused many businesses to close. It caused unemployment. Unemployment is a byproduct towards crime taking place. So the nonsense and the cheap excuse to not give credit to the police officers for making sure that there was a massive reduction in crime, it's a slap in the face to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service by misleading them. As it pertains to Erla Christopher, as I said, the experts measure the performance of Erla Christopher, and she didn't even come in the top 10. She did not have the capability, which is why I continue to state that we must not blame Erla Christopher. She didn't impose herself on us. It was a police service commission that is clueless, and nobody is demanding that they be fired. So they will probably appoint other persons because of their failure to understand national security. Erla Christopher may not have the capability to understand how to transform the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And we would have seen it. The first thing, so when there was a certain newspaper that said, Erla is not the worst. There are 75 assessments made by the Police Service Commission annually on a commissioner of police. No more than 5 has to do with crime statistics. You have to look at finance. You have to look at administration. You have to look at systems you did to inspire the police service, instill confidence by the public, the public's confidence in you. Those are the things that measure to know if somebody is the best or the worst. And she would obviously go down among that being among the lowest in the threshold of successful commissioners of police, not just by using crime statistics. And because she may not have that capability, it doesn't make her a bad person. That is just that she doesn't, the experts show that she did not have the capability. Judith Jones and company imposed Erla Christopher on us. So she does not have that capability to inspire the type of confidence, lifting morale. You need a police commissioner who would lead by example, who is willing to go out there in the front line and willing to take a bullet. Leadership is one where you are prepared to do every single thing that you try to delegate persons to do themselves, so that leadership by example is what will instill confidence, not walk around with a cane in Calypso Fiesta semifinals to get a photo up. You're supposed to be out on the streets all hours of the night with the youngest police officer to let them know that I am here for you. That is how you transform police service. You utilize the technology that is there. When kidnapping came to an end, it was because of the technology that we use. Never before in the history of Trinidad and Tobago did we find systems where persons were kidnapping individuals. We were kicking down doors, intercepting vehicles whilst the kidnappers had the victims. That never happened before. That caused kidnapping to end. It caused home invasions to end. By the time you jump that wall, you jump back over. A few moments later was not by accident. We had things called predictive policing, understanding using technology, social media monitoring, undercover officers to intercept and stop a crime from taking place. She does not have that type of 21st century policing capability, which Dwayne Gibbs started, and I continued, that we were able to inspire the police service to move into that threshold of technology, new units, new policies, new equipment, and they're afraid to do it. I put in body cameras, it was shut down. I put in tasers, it was shut down. I put dashboard cameras on the police vehicles, shut down. The emergency response patrol to lock down the country. Every 3 minutes you're seeing a vehicle, shut down. A proper 999 system and not be put on hold for 45 minutes, shut down. So if you fear the change going into the second quarter of the 21st century in policing, and you go back to the 80s of persons having to go to a police station to make a report instead of online reporting, instead of using a police app by shutting down the app, Erla Christopher, either based on her failure to understand technology or being instructed to do so, you can't transform the police service. All the manpower audit documents is not going to change it. It has to come from within. You must have that ability to lead. And she just, if it's idea have it or you don't, she doesn't.
One of the recommendations that came out of the report had to do with urgent need to address the issue of leave for police officers. As a layman who is unaware of how that works, why is it so difficult to ensure that officers go on leave when they are scheduled to, so that there isn't an officer going on 3 years leave, 4 years leave, 5 years leave, as the case may be, before they actually retire and so forth? Because if they're saying that is an issue with causing an issue with manpower and resources as well.
Yeah, and that is the problem. That manpower audit, all it gave would be problems. How you find solutions to rectify the problems, they didn't know, because again, Ramesh Josaran is a criminologist. He didn't understand. That matter was rectified under my watch, because what happened is that police officers will deliberately not go on leave. They will build it, and the person senior to them would not make it mandatory. In the defense was that is done. You cannot accumulate any, as soon as it reaches reach a certain point, the commanding officer of the battalion or the regiment or the Coast Guard or the Air Guard will say, you are to go on leave, whether you like it or not. That is how it is done. Because it's so, this has nothing to do with the manpower audit showing the concern. We found the solution. Earlier, Christopher had 2 years leave. I said, you are to clean out your leave. And I sent on 2 years leave immediately. So she was sent on leave when I was commissioner of police. That is how it is done. And if you have a proper system with 7,000 police officers, and you know that say you're entitled to a month leave every year, it means that at least 10% of the police should always be on leave at all times. Look how simple that is to do. So you don't need a manpower audit to do that, you know. So you have 7,000 police officers. You have your human resource department. You make sure that each of the 10 divisions, you tell the 10 division commanders, 10% of your staff must be on leave at least for 1 month every year. That will ensure that at no time, no police officer could accumulate more than 2 or 3 months leave. Simple as that. So this goes back to my point. It is all about leadership and management. So we were doing that in the human resource department. There was a concern, again, the manpower audit would speak about police officers absent from court. It was a serious concern. We were able to reduce police absenteeism by 83 to 91% in every division by making sure that as soon as you're absent from court, you will be disciplined, and having a backup police officer in case that officer is sick or retired. So you will be, and that ensure that criminals will know that, listen, before they thought that I will be arrested, I'll be charged. When I go to court, the officer wouldn't show up. That is how it is done. So every single concern of that manpower audit, we rectified all of the problems. You could call every single one. I know we can't go on forever, but it requires just proper leadership, looking at the concerns and finding solutions to rectify the problem.
All right, I think we have everything we need there. There were some points of the from the report which also spoke about there was a issue with the Police Service Act, if I'm not, of 2006, if I remember correctly. But it all has to do with I think it also goes back into the Police Service Commission. Do you think that this is something this administration, Dr. Rowley, is going to be able to convince the opposition needs to happen with their support? Because he was asked several times at the National Security Conference that he held about participating in the crime talks. And, you know, it was a sticking point that if you are there, he's not going to be there. And then once the talks happen, at some point, he would be willing to participate. So we have this issue. The public is calling for joint crime talks. Everybody's saying it should happen, but it's not happening. And then we need collaboration with the government and the opposition to ensure that there is reform, to ensure that actual issues that need to be addressed at that level can be. Do you think that we could see that?
It is a cop-out by Keith Rowley. To start with, again, I continue to re-emphasize, Keith Rowley is going to utilize extracts of the manpower audit to state that because you need constitutional reform to be able to do some of the things recommended in the manpower audit, that is the only time you're going to see transformation in the police service. That is a lie. And again, I will go back to even the most diehard supporter of Keith Rowley. Are you telling me 2.5 years ago, you didn't see a transformation in the police service, how the police operated, how they acted, their morale being lifted, they being highly motivated, criminals being pegged back, criminals being fearful, the public trust and confidence moving from 14 to 59% and now going back down to 8%. So he is going to use the cop-out to say, well, it is because we need to use the recommendations of the audit and it requires legislative amendments. There was no legislative amendments from August 2018 to August 2021, and people saw the transformation of the police service. We put in units that were never there before. We removed units that were outdated, that provided no value to the Trinidad and Tobago police service. We put in technology. For example, the reason why you saw so many police officers is because we instilled something called online reporting. People do not go to police stations to make reports again. That is old-time policing. Put in online reporting, so whether it's domestic violence, fraud, cybercrime, You put it online, you stay in your home, they come to you. It was a delivery service. People do not go to police stations to make reports. I ask you, how often do you see a police station in Miami, in New York, in London, when you go there? It is developed country status in understanding that. And that is why instead of 10 police officers sitting down in a station, waiting, twiddling their thumbs for a report to take place, that Blanchardshire station that Keith Rowley speaks about, there was one report in 2 months. One person turned up in 2 months. But you wanted instead, that is where instead of 10 officers staying in a station, I took out 8 or 9, and you alone stay in that station and you wait for that report. The 9 of you all walk the beat in St. James instead of all of you all staying in St. James Station. That is how you transform the police service. So he's using the manpower audit and recommendations for legislation as a cheap cop-out and an excuse why it is the police service is no longer transformed to how it was before. And remember, this was a report in 2016 or 2017. For 7 years, you sat on it and you did nothing. And you now realize that, wait a minute, this is something that should have been done and it was not done. And it's because it was not done that the police service is the way it is. It is another excuse. You sat on it for 7 years and you did nothing about it. And furthermore, let me finally add that statement about him not wanting to meet with myself and Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. I again ask the most diehard supporter of the PNM, Keith Rowley, how is that going to stop and lower the possibility of your wife being raped, your daughter being kidnapped, your son being killed? But you're still going to vote for a man who's saying, I don't care, I do not want to talk to them. It goes back to Patrick Manning's comment. When he is full of hate and bitterness, he is totally out of control. How can you not swallow your pride? And by him, and listen to the comment he's telling the media. I wish to applaud the media yesterday. They stood up to him. It was the first time. That's what he does. He has these press conferences, bully the media, shout at them. And this time you saw the media doubling down and saying, no, you're wrong. Get to the point. What you're saying is not making sense. And he couldn't handle it. He started moonwalking like Michael Jackson. He didn't know how to handle it. And that was good. It shows that the media is standing up to the bully. And the comment that he made is that I did not say that I would not attend. You're using a double negative instead of saying I would attend. The most critical concern in this country is people losing their fundamental rights, which is that of safety and security, the right to live. And you, because of your bitterness and hatred for Kamala and Gary, you're saying, I am going to delegate responsibility. That shows he's either the laziest prime minister because he doesn't have time to attend a meeting of such significance that could assist in some lives being saved, or he is so full of hate and bitterness, he just prefer, I am not going to meet with them, even if Rome burns, even if the country drowns in blood. You can't have a man leading a country that when you have so much hate and bitterness, you are not willing to swallow your pride to do what is right for the country. Politicians must always be patriots before politicians.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.